and Sean Sports Radio. That's Seth. I'm Sean. That's great. Finally got it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, fantastic. And Seth and Sean Sports Radio on backsportspage.com, and we're now on StreamYard. So that's pretty cool. We have some video going on. And if you'd like to join us, you are welcome to do such. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter or even YouTube. I believe Randy has us on now.
I think so. I think also, to be fair, we actually need people to be watching the show live, which makes it a little bit harder.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Right now, the only people watching are us.
Yeah, but there are people that do actually watch it on repeat. It is
heard.
Yeah. So we definitely it's a pretty cool thing that we have here. Please check out our Back Sports page and all the other shows. And there are lots of other shows, and unfortunately,
lots of other shows.
And unfortunately, I don't remember any of them actually right now. But I'm gonna.
Is it Hardwood Huddle in there?
Yeah, there's Hardwood Huddle. There's a bunch of ones that have really cool names.
Well, compared to us, everyone has a cool name.
This is true. I'm gonna get the names of some of them, but today is the day of the Hall of Fame announcement, and that will take place at 6:00. So right after our show. So we'll be happy to talk about that next week more than we will this week. But, Seth, in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months. Oh, wait, I have all the shows. Exit Velo. I love that one. That's great. It's Under the Hoodies. That's always the top one. I like that. Under the Hoodies. You were right with Hardwood Huddle. Fourth and Long, which kind of sounds like pornography, but sure, why not? You have the Off the Topic and the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast, An Ear to the Canvas.
Why would Fourth and Long sound like pornography?
It just sounds like a porn movie.
Okay.
It just does. Anyway, so we've had in the last couple of months basically an all-star Hall of Fame lineup
of death.
Of death. I mean, it's between Phil Negro, Don Sutton, Al Kaline, Tommy Lasorda, Tom Seaver, Bob Gibson. Who am I missing? There's like 3 or 4 others, right?
Is it Don Baylor?
No, Don Baylor didn't make the Hall of Fame, but Hall of Famers that passed. So there are at least 8 to 9 Hall of Famers. Oh, Joe Morgan, Whitey Ford. And then, quite frankly, we had the best of them that just passed away in the last week. Hank Aaron is, to me, the most underrated player in Major League Baseball history, and it's not even close.
Yeah, it's a funny discussion. I brought that up to somebody who thought I was nuts. Think about it. When you think of the greatest outfielders of all time, Babe Ruth comes to mind first, typically, and then Ty Cobb, and then Willie Mays, and then Mickey Mantle, and now it's Mike Trout. Hank Aaron, even Roberto Clemente often will be mentioned before you get to Hank Aaron. And that's nothing against Roberto Clemente. He was a wonderful, wonderful player. But Hank Aaron's numbers are absurd. And the only thing he has ever really been known for is the home run, is 755. His career home run title, which passed Babe Ruth in 1974. But he was really a great player, not per se a phenomenal home run hitter, but just a great player.
Yeah, I'm going to steal a lot of Jason Stark's article that came off The Athletic, because Jason Stark is basically a numbers guy, right? Everything he writes is in recent times is by the numbers. So one of the things that got me is OPS plus, which is basically on-base percentage plus slugging percentage compared to the park that you're in. So it's basically a neutral site. So if you're in Coors, you can be compared to that which players play in Yankee Stadium. Okay, so an OPS plus of 161. Now let's go through those. How many active players have had an OPS of 161 once? Well, the answer is The answer is 6, I believe.
Once? Wait a minute. I'm confused. That's
Once.
his average per year during his career.
That's Hank Aaron's average per
Yeah,
year. These
that's what
guys
I meant.
did it. These guys did it once. Freddie Freeman, Josh Donaldson, Anthony Rendon, Manny Machado, and Nolan Arenado. These are all
That's it?
stars. No, I'm saying these guys have done it once. Mike Trout's done it more. Albert
Yeah.
Pujols has done it more. But the fact is, these guys who are the premier players at their positions in the Major League Baseball right now, and probably 4 of the 5 are on track to go to the Hall of Fame. Donaldson's probably not there, but the other 4 are.
Wait a minute. Arenado, probably.
Yep.
Read those names again.
Freddie Freeman.
I don't know. I mean, he won an MVP. I'm not exactly about to give him a bust.
So David Schoenfield did an article on ESPN the other day comparing active players Hall of Famers and where they are in their careers. So he compared Freddie Freeman to Tony Perez, where he's like,
who was a borderline Hall of Famer.
Correct.
When I talk of the Hall of Great versus which is a conversation we had more in the prior years of the show, Tony Perez was a very nice player, but when you name the 3 most important players on those great Cincinnati teams, Tony Perez was not there.
No, and I agree with that. Hold on. So he wrote it a couple of days ago. I'll have to find this. So Freddie Freeman, Anthony Rendon, who is probably the best hitter in baseball right now, just contact hitter, is the best contact hitter in baseball right now. Trout's the best player. But
nobody's calling Anthony Rendon a top 10 player in Major League Baseball right now.
Okay.
Are you?
I am calling Anthony Rendon a top 10 hitter in baseball right now.
That's not what I said.
Once you get to pitchers, he's not in the
Forget it, pitchers aside. Is he a top 10 non-pitcher?
Yes, he is a top 10 non-pitcher. Yes. Anthony, so these are all okay, maybe they're not Hall of Famers. These are all all-stars. Can we acknowledge that they are?
Yeah, but I'm kind of lost where we're going with the comparison here.
Okay, these guys had a 161 OPS in one big league season. Hank Aaron averaged a 161 OPS, averaged over 25 seasons. Like, the comparison between A and B is basically these guys are your all-stars. Hank Aaron's on a different stratosphere than these guys. I mean, than the players today. Hank Aaron had that OPS over 20 seasons. His average season was basically the exact same thing as Mike Trout has done once in his career.
That's a little bit. Mike Trout is a more relevant comparison to me. See, I guess to me, I wonder if he doesn't play in Milwaukee and Atlanta.
Yeah.
As we think about the 3 great center fielders, there's been books on them. The movie in New York. Again, It's a little bit before Hank Aaron's time. You have Mays with the Giants. You have Snyder with the Dodgers, and you have Mantle with the Yankees. Playing for the prestige teams of Major League Baseball. I wonder if Aaron played for one of those teams, where he would have been portrayed, because his numbers dwarf Mantle and are certainly comparable to Mays. As a great outfielder, considered one of the 4 or 5. I think someone ranked him the 3rd best right fielder of the last 90 years. He never hit 50 home runs in a season, but he had 40 like 16 times. His batting average was better. Now he also didn't have the surrounding talent that Mays often had with, Milwaukee had Eddie Matthews, who was a really nice player and a Hall of Fame third baseman. Other than that team was really pretty irrelevant after 58 or 57 when they won the World Series, I believe.
Yep.
In 58, they lost to the Yankees.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Duke Snyder got a lot more pub because he was in Brooklyn than if he would have been anywhere else. Because Duke Snyder was not anywhere close to on a par with the other 2, with Willie and Mickey. And Duke Snyder actually, I believe, took 10 years to get into the Hall of Fame. So it definitely is another class. But Hank Aaron quite possibly could be in the conversation of the best player ever. Like his numbers, and it's unfortunate that it really took his death or in the last 5 or 6 years to get you to that point, to get you to the sabermetrics point of how good this guy was.
And it is kind of strange because we do see comparisons with Mano and with Mays and with Frank Robinson, and all these are great players. Aaron always kind of, it just kind of seemed he never, it just kind of fell by the wayside, other than in '74 when he was getting all the death threats before he beat Ruth. And he never seemed to get any publicity. He just did his job.
Yeah, I mean, so the number 3,076. That's how many hits he had without home runs. And he only hit 755 home runs. So he hit that. No, it's kind of like Wayne Gretzky with his assists and goals, right? If you take away all the goals of Wayne Gretzky, he still had more points than anybody else in hockey history. You take away the home runs, and Hank Aaron still had 3,000 hits. He had the most consecutive years under 100 strikeouts and more than 300 plate appearances. Think about that today. There are players that strike out 200 times in a season. He struck out under 100 times in 23 consecutive seasons. And he was 755 home runs. Like his numbers are insane. He has 722 more total bases than the next closest player in history. He has 1,000 more hits than Chipper Jones and 2,000 more hits than Mark McGwire. It is just off the charts how good he really was. And like I said, most underrated player in baseball history. And there are some amazing, amazing stories about him. And I suggest that you pick those up on ESPN or whatnot where you can find it. But yeah, it is a loss. It is a tremendous loss for baseball and for everybody else at this point. And the thing is that people don't realize is how much of an ambassador Hank Aaron really was. And Hank Aaron was, if you think that Jackie Robinson got death threats, and he did. Hank Aaron got just as many. Like, just as many. Because when you are toppling Babe Ruth, and I think Vince Scully said it on his call for the 715th home run, a black man in Atlanta, in the South, toppling one of baseball's greatest icons. That's a lot bigger in 1974 than it is today. I mean, Georgia just had its first black senator in history. There have only been roughly 22 black senators in the history.
I thought it was 11.
11? I thought it was 22.
I could be wrong.
A black man in the South in 1974 was not exactly revered, but Hank Aaron was. And seeing Craig Sager with his white overcoat running around the bases with him made it all the better. So we're gonna with the guys that passed away, Seth, and I know you are a small Hall of Fame type guy.
Yeah. It was 11, by the way. I just looked.
It's 11. Does it give you any more pause thinking back on? Look, the players that passed away, the former players in the last 12 months, those 8 or 9 players that we just mentioned, they're in your small Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, most of them are. I'm not sure if Phil Niekro would. I don't think Phil Niekro would be.
And Don Sutton probably wouldn't.
Don Sutton wouldn't be, but Joe Morgan would be. Tom Seaver would be. Who else am I forgetting off the top of my head?
I'm not sure what would actually be.
Whitey Ford was also one of the best clutch pitchers of all time, which he would be on the lower end of probably making it. But I can see the argument against.
Yeah, I would not put him in a small hall, but that's just me. But the fact of Tom Seaver, like these are the guys that are in your hall, right? I mean, for all intents and purposes. And I forget, quite frankly, where you are on the Bonds and Clemens and A-Rod and Sheffield. Does this make you think any more about whether these guys should or should not be in, based on
I've
the
gone back.
just
I've gone
passed
back and
away?
forth on it. I don't know. I really don't. I've never known what to do with this argument. Because then you have guys like Piazza who made it, although there was no evidence. It was never fully proven. There was Bagwell, never fully proven. It's I've leaned against it, but I don't know. I don't think there's a definitive answer one way or the other. I just don't.
Well, that's certainly true, right? And that's why it's a right. It's the writers that determine it. Now, let me ask you this, and this is a subject we really haven't talked about. Does baseball do it the right way? Is it the writers that should be doing it, or should it be the way the
I kind
football?
of like the way football does it. I'll be honest. When you have a Ted Williams who doesn't get unanimous because people in Boston hated him, because the writers in Boston, like Dan Egan, hated him, doesn't. I like the combination of the players and the media, and in front office.
Okay,
I think that's the right way to do it.
so two things. First of all, the world's a lot different than Ted Williams, right? I mean, we're talking 1960s and today, right?
Oh, he got in 65 or 66.
Right. So, and it's much more public than it's ever been before in baseball. Football is the most private of them, right? You do not disclose the discussions, and hockey has the same type of way. It's done with various people and not 500 or 700 ballots. It's not based on that. So, given that you are basically in secret about football, does that make it better or worse? Because to me,
let's think about it. When Jeter didn't get in, we don't know. We know who the voters are, but we don't know who voted against Jeter as a unanimous Hall of Famer.
Well, actually, you do, because he came out and said he didn't.
But he came out and said it. No, we wouldn't have known otherwise.
Correct.
And
over the last couple of years, baseball writers have tried to make it more transparent, where there is actually a box on the ballot that the Hall of Fame sends out that says you by checking this box off, you are allowing us to make your vote public 14 days after. So you won't make it public today, you'll make it in 2 weeks. So there's a little bit more transparency going on. Now, the Veterans Committee has no transparency whatsoever. And that's why Jerry Reinsdorf gets Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, which is, I mean, how can you even take that remotely seriously?
Right, which is garbage. But football has absolutely no transparency. None whatsoever. So it is 40 guys. I think it's 40, maybe 44.
45. I think it's 45. I think you need 36. I believe you need 36 to get in.
Well, and then you have a yay nay vote, right, at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whittling it down. So you have 45 guys. And look, we know a lot about this through Monday Morning Quarterback, which has become Football Morning in America, through Peter King. In that is the lack of transparency better or worse? Because I come on the worst side, in that I want to know, you were talking about bias before. This is where bias counts more than anywhere else, right? It's a smaller sample. It's 40 people as opposed to 700. If you had a bias against Ted Williams and it was 20 of those votes, Ted Williams still goes to the Hall of Fame every single time.
Well, no, if he's not if there's 40 people. But
right, but that's my point. It's
right,
if
but also
40 people makes it.
The other thing is you're not dealing just with the media. You're dealing with former players. You're dealing with front office executives. There's less chance that someone hates whoever. There's one or two people who are against it. It's not going to have it's not going to be the same as opposed to if the entire media. I mean, Kurt Schilling is a perfect example. And look, I test the man for everything that he says. But if it was front office and player and media, he would probably have a better chance of getting in than strictly the media. Now, I'm not saying it's not warranted, considering he's telling them that they should be hung from a tree.
Yep.
I'm not. Look, I've always been a small. I like small. Yep. I like having a diverse group, and the NFL is not. I mean, the NFL is, excuse me. The Major League Baseball certainly is not. I don't know how NBA is done. I think it's more like football. And I guess to me, I don't care. It was funny. I was watching, for whatever reason, the Mariano Rivera getting the call a couple of weeks ago for some reason. And he was more excited about being the first person that got inducted unanimously as opposed to getting inducted. Unanimous versus I don't care about it. I don't care about that to me. I don't care. Yeah. To me, that Babe Ruth and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and all these guys weren't. It's silly anyway. It's ridiculous. And we were talking just about. I mean, the NFL one. They did the NFL Hall of Fame had their discussion, I think, last week. Apparently, Peyton Manning's discussion was 13 seconds. Calvin Johnson.
That's about what it should be, right? I mean,
exactly. So you don't need. To me, that pretty much shows it was unanimous, which you would think it would be anyway.
Right.
To me, once you're in, you're in. How you get in, I don't care. If that's what's holding it back, the value of the unanimous vote, I think it's crap. I like small. I like different, coming from different places. That would be my opinion on how it should be done.
Okay. Now, I did find, by the way, the article. I wanted to make sure. So they compare Freddie Freeman. I'm sorry, I didn't think. My mistake was not to Tony Perez, but rather to Eddie Murray.
Okay, that's a more definitive Hall of Famer than Tony Perez.
So Eddie Murray, and they are on the same track. So that would be a person of comparison, and Rendon is on this list. I wanted to make sure we kept the loop going. Rendon, by the way, has 3 6-win WAR seasons, 3 top 6 MVP finishes, and he's 27 years old. So it is definitely something that could get you to that plateau. They use WAR a lot as a relevant stat in this comparison, which I guess if you're looking for an objective stat, that's what it is. Nolan Arenado, they compare to Ron Santo, who took a while to get into the Hall.
I was going to say that's a borderline, but the way Arenado is going, I would think he would surpass Santo on the third base.
And Machado, they compare to Adrian Beltre. Now, Beltre had a much better 30 to 40 year.
Yeah, than he did 20 to 30.
Than 20 to 30. So we'll see if that's there. But that was the comparison that went on. And again, these are all based on career WAR and if you could continue down that path, right? I mean, there were certain guys that got a late start. Jake DeGrom. Jake DeGrom's got to have a really hard time with the numbers part of the Hall of Fame.
You know him well enough that he goes by Jake?
Oh, yeah. I guess I do. I guess I do. Jacob DeGrom. Look, if that's your Cy Young Award winner and you get one, I'm good with that. I mean, there's not much there. There's still a couple of free agents that are out there in Major League Baseball. Most importantly, Trevor Bauer. The Mets have laid.
I heard they made a massive offer too. I haven't been able to
Yeah, yeah. Well, all the other guys are gone. So Springer's gone, Brad Hand's gone, and how do you improve your team? The Yankees made a trade, getting Jamison Tallison early.
Who the heck is James? Other than he was drafted between Machado and Harper, I know nothing about the guy.
Okay, so Jamison Tallison, for those that are not fans of the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is basically anybody that might listen.
Yeah.
Right. So he was, as you said, drafted between Machado and Harper. He took a while to get going, but 2 years ago, so he had Tommy John surgery very closely after he was drafted. Then in 2019, he went 13-7 and had one of those like breakout years that he kept the control, everything was going well. And then he tore his UCL again. So this is his second Tommy John surgery. There are very, very few players that have come back from 2 Tommy John surgeries. But those that have done well. So it's a matter of whether it's an injury concern. The Yankees gave up 4 prospects, none of them in their top 5. So this is a risk for the Yankees. The Yankees seem to be relying a lot on going into this year, a lot on whether the Tommy John surgery recovery tour goes well. And between Luis Severino and now Jamison Tallison and then Corey Kluber having injuries, it's basically hope we're going to throw a lot of quantity and hope we get some form of quality.
1 or 2 stick.
Yeah, so 1 or 2 stick. Now I want to ask your opinion. We're a month out from spring training. Do you realize that? Like we're right there. We're at the end of January. What are you feeling with all that's going on in the world? And I hate saying unprecedented times, but they are. What's your feeling on this? Is this the right move? Is this? I'm cautiously optimistic given what happened last year to baseball in general. But the problem is, if you don't go full board, then you have to negotiate. And we know these two teams.
They can't negotiate. They can't even get in the same room.
Right. So unless you go with the same schedule that you have in your collective bargaining agreement, you're basically laying down the hatches for war. And this doesn't take into account anything that's going on in the world today.
Well, this is, I think, how I see it. Supposedly, Johnson & Johnson is going to pass their vaccine in the next 14 days. It's going to be approved by the FDA next week.
That's good for this guy.
That is good for that guy. This guy's already got it. So for those of you who wouldn't know, because I got it the day after our last show, I am considered by New Jersey standards to be obese. I have caught a lot of crap from my friends about it. Yeah. Oh, sure.
I have not given you any
crap. From you. Not from you.
Zero crap.
Nothing from you.
Yeah.
But the idea of 100, if you can get 100, I wish they could push it back to May 1st. Because if you get to that 100 million in 100 days, then then pretty much all these guys would get it and it would have the vaccine anyway. What are they going to do? They're not going to push it back. You can't get these people. You couldn't get at the crux of this pandemic. You couldn't get these SOBs in the same room. You're not going to get them in now. So now this is the situation we got. Is we're gonna run with what we have. I have no interest in it at all. Look, this is the first year I'm having trouble watching college basketball. I can't watch it except for Maryland. I can't.
Why can't you watch it? Like
I don't know.
Because you don't think there's going to be an end?
Oh no, I think what's happened is I think it's a little bit. Look, college basketball in general, the last few years, and we've talked. I always joke how you always make me out to be the college basketball expert because I'm not anymore. We'd probably better off bringing on a Paul Miyake or someone like that. because I can't follow the players on a year-to-year basis. I really like college football because I know, even if I don't know all 45 players, I know who Devontae Smith was. I've watched him since freshman year, so I can watch him for 3 years. Even in Maryland, it's hard for me to keep up with some of these guys because half of them leave so early. And when you have Duke, all these guys, they all leave, they're all one and done. Or, one or two and done. There's no continuity anymore, so it's not as enjoyable for me.
Right, but you said this year in particular. So my question is,
I think I'm mentally a little bit fried.
Right. I watched Syracuse last night, and I watched them play Virginia in an empty stadium, which is what every stadium is.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not realize, and I watched them play Virginia Tech, I think it was Sunday or Saturday. And the fans matter. Like, I
think that's a lot of it too.
I was watching, and we'll get to the football in a couple of minutes, but watching Green Bay, Tampa Bay. What?
What football?
Oh, the Green Bay, Tampa Bay game.
There was a football game this past weekend?
There was a football game this past weekend. Tom Brady made it again. But watching that game and watching the stadium with, 20,000 people. I don't even think there were 20,000 people. But they were somewhat of noise. And what was interesting was the announcer saying Tom Brady, for the first time all year, has to deal with crowd noise. And I was like, that's not the crowd noise you care about. Like 20,000 people may make some noise, but it reminded me of a crowd at a very, very bad football game in which 1/3 of the fans show up and the student body is still sleeping. It's a noon game against Eastern Tennessee State. And you're slapping signs on the stands because there's nobody in front of you.
Yep.
And a lot of it is I'm eager to see how the Super Bowl runs, but I'm also petrified at how the Super Bowl is going to be run. Because you're putting 22,000 people in that
a 70-person stadium.
70,000 person stadium, but it's in Florida. And don't tell me that Chiefs fans are not going to populate Florida. And Bucs fans are already there. They're already going to go to the ball. It only would have been worse if Buffalo made it. Every Buffalo fan. You couldn't keep Buffalo fans out. Seth, the secondary market for the tickets right now,
$12,000.
$12,000.
I'm glad I've been saving up this year.
If Buffalo was in it, it would have been double.
It would have been something to behold, but to be honest, Buffalo didn't really have much of a shot in this game.
No, and you've been talking about that all season, that Buffalo did not have a running game. And it hurt them more in this game than any other game.
Well, that's why I thought Cleveland was a tougher matchup, because Cleveland could run the clock. Cleveland can run the ball, take 35, 37 minutes of the if they won in order to win the game,
sure,
could eat up 35 minutes, 36 minutes. That's what they would need to do. And they came pretty close. Buffalo was I just thought it was a bad matchup for them.
It was the first time I had seen Josh Allen not play well in a long time. He was off his game. He was.
But think about this. This happens to most 99% of the quarterbacks go through something like this in the playoffs before they go forward. And the team. Look, Buffalo is a good team. They're not better than Kansas City. They're just not. And they need a running back. They need their defense is not what it was. I'm really impressed with how far they got with what I think is relatively mediocre talent. I mean, Allen is a stud, as you've known for the last 7 years. They're still angry about.
I am.
Look, Diggs is a Maryland boy. Couldn't root for him more. No, it's coming. We didn't. But they're wide, even without, he's been one of the 3 best receivers in football this year. John Brown was not healthy, but he came back. Beasley was phenomenal. Gabriel Davis. They have talent on the wide. Devin Singletary has not been great. Zach Moss has not been great. Thurman Thomas ain't running through that door.
And that was the shocker to me. I thought I thought Zach Moss would be a lot better.
I think you were going to say Zach Morris, which would have been much
No,
funnier.
I actually did say Zach Moss. I did not say Zach Morris. I said Zach Thomas first. I thought Zach Moss would have been a lot better. And maybe it's his rookie year, and that's why. But he was one of those guys I saw last year play at Utah. It was Utah, right? Or Utah State. It was one of the two.
I think.
Utah. See, I'm pulling these guys.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And I saw him in the bowl game, and I was like, "Oh, that guy's gonna be good." Like that. That guy has wheels, and he's got agility. And I think next year he will start for that team. And if he does start for that team, I think they have their running back solution. I think he is the solution.
Okay.
I think it's just a matter.
He didn't prove to be this year.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And look, Kansas City has so many weapons. And it was the Tyreek Hill show. I mean, once again, you can say you can't stop Tyreek Hill. Like, you cannot. He is the Bo Jackson from Techno Bowl. You get the ball in his hands, and he reminds me of, well, he is a much better Dante Hill, who we used to call the human Dante Hall, who we used to call the human joystick. And he is absolutely like that. And when you have Kelsey, who had 10 catches for 100 yards in the first half, and then all of a sudden, we'll just stop Kelsey. Well, okay, pick your poison, dude.
I don't really see, and we'll talk about the game more next week. I don't see the Tampa matching. I don't see how Tampa matches up with them. I think unless they can just outscore them in a shootout, and
which is potentially possible with that.
It's possible. I don't think it'll happen, but it's possible. No, I mean, look, I liked Green Bay, and I liked Kansas City a lot, and I told you that. I just didn't like the Buffalo matchup.
Well, let's talk about two things here. First of all, the loss of Aaron Jones in that game was huge. The loss of Aaron Jones from the Green Bay perspective basically took out the running game. And that killed Aaron Rodgers. Absolutely killed him, because it made them Josh Allen. It made them a one-dimensional attack, which with Aaron Rodgers, who is better than Josh Allen, was able to come back. But
you can't overcome Kevin King.
No. Well, you can. It's called Greg Williams. I mean, against the Raiders. I mean, it was basically this. It looked the exact same play, where I was like, "How do you do that? Like, how?"
That was as bad as the fourth down field goal was, and we've talked in
the choice of the fourth down field goal.
Yeah, which was how you let up a 50-yard bomb with 8 seconds to go is mind-boggling.
And it not be a Hail Mary.
Yeah, it was. No, that was it.
Right.
It was a one-on-one where he beat him flat. Why you're not giving him 15 yards? Look, if you don't want to give up the field goal, I get it, but you need to be in 3 rush, 8 back. I mean, you cannot be in that. I mean, jokingly, you can't do that. So you have that play. You have Aaron Rodgers, who for the life of me, I don't know why he didn't run for the touchdown.
Right.
On the third down play, or get to the 2 or the 3.
Yeah.
And the Matt LaFleur call, which I will never understand. You brought me around on the James Harden deal. I don't think you can bring me around on this one.
So here's another question for you. So it's a 2-part question. Can the relationship between LaFleur and Rodgers survive? And if it can't, based on this one decision, because you've seen what Rodgers has said in the media.
Yeah.
And given if it can't, who leaves?
It can. Look, Rodgers is a pretty emotional guy to begin with. And if it can't, it's not going to matter. It will. Okay. Now, the only way I can see it not is because they have, they pissed Rodgers off by bringing in Jordan Love last year.
Exactly. That's where I was going with this.
I know where you were going with it, but Jordan Love didn't even suit up for half the games this year.
Correct.
So Jordan Love's not ready. You got Rodgers. Now you're going to lose. Now the problem is you're going to lose Aaron Jones to free agency, which is why you drafted AJ Dillon last year.
Yep.
You need a number 2 wideout. You don't need much more. Where is he going to go? Where he's going to have a better chance to win a title?
I don't agree with that.
Yeah. So I think he'll be fine. I think he's got 2 years left in Green Bay. But if he requests a trade, who are they going to trade him to? What is equal value for Aaron Rodgers at this point?
Well, we can get into that too, because now we have 2 other quarterbacks that are supposedly on the market. One is definitely on the market, and one may very well be. One has
Matthew Stafford is on the market.
Our friend our friend Matthew Stafford, because we have had Matthew a couple of times on our team. We call him a friend at the show. Our friend Matthew Stafford has requested a trade. What do you think of this? And call me intrigued.
Hold on, we have a question here. This is from your friend Mark, who I think hosted with you.
Yes.
Does anyone care that Pats fans are in pain right now?
No.
What do you think? Yeah, I mean, that's
we're laughing at the fact that
you care. Why would you care about anything?
No, we're laughing that the Pats fans are in pain right now.
You won 6 Super Bowls in 20 years.
We love that you're in pain.
I care less about you.
Dude, I've been in pain. I've been loving that you've been in pain all season. This is tremendous.
Yeah. I mean, this is coming from a guy whose team went 3-13.
This is hard for me to acknowledge that I picked Brady to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. And even during the last game against the Packers, I was rooting against Brady to go to the Super Bowl. So no, I have no sympathy for you people.
He's asking us, how about trading Stephon Gilmore, who did he even play this year? He was out.
Yeah, he did. He was
out the year. And draft picks for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, they won't do it. No. First of all, you're at 15, so it's not happening. So there is a couple of things going on with Deshaun, and we're talking about Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford. There's a couple of things. Deshaun Watson's going to pick where he goes. He has a no-trade clause, a complete no-trade clause. If he don't want to go there, he's not going to go there. If he wants to go to New England, he'll wind up in New England. Do I think he wants to go to New England? No.
You have no offensive talent.
Right. No. It's even worse. You are going from Bill O'Brien to Bill Belichick? Like, that's not happening. Like, he's not. No.
And as you said, whatever you're going to offer is going to start with, if it's the Jets, it's the number 2 pick. If it's Miami, it's the number 4 pick.
3.
You're not starting. Is it 3? You're not starting at 15. It's not happening. You have a better chance trading for Stafford, which I don't think you would do either. But
here's my other question. So work with me on this. And it's not a 3-way deal, but Stafford's a Texas guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Miami trades for Deshaun Watson. Does not give up Tua.
Okay.
They trade Tua somewhere else. And they bring in Matt Stafford.
You just told me Miami's bringing in Watson. Why the hell would
they
bring
So Houston is bringing in Stafford.
Oh, why is Stafford going to go? Look, Stafford has been a pretty loyal soldier for the last 12 years.
Correct.
Why the hell is Stafford going to go to a team that has no chance to win a championship?
But so how many teams are there that need a quarterback that are close to a championship? Let's go through those, because I don't think there are many.
Indy.
Okay.
Indy's the best fit. San Francisco. Dude, they went to a Super Bowl last year, and the whole team got injured this past year.
No, agreed.
Washington's not a Super Bowl team, but Washington has a very good young defense, has a stud wide receiver, and has a good young running back and a good coach. That may work.
Okay.
Those are the three right off the top of my head.
So Washington is picking, I believe, they won, so they're like 19.
19.
Right?
Right,
18.
but Indy's 21, so we're kind of in the same ballpark here.
No. I understand that. I'm just going through these. So San Francisco, I believe we said was 12 or 13. They're a little bit more up, right? And then what was the other team you said? I'm sorry, you said
Indianapolis.
Indy's in the they're in the 20s, right?
21.
So you're looking at mid first round pick for Matthew Stafford. Do you think that gets it done?
I do.
Okay.
You got Stafford. Look, you got Stafford. First of all, Detroit's not going. He's been with Detroit for 12 years.
Yes.
They're not going to give him away, but they're also not going to be. They're going to give him some leeway on this. I think.
Okay.
I think they're going to say, look, if your preference is Indy, we will do. As long as Indy gives us something that's reasonable, we will work with Indy. San Francisco, the same thing. I don't know if they would do it within the division. So let's say Chicago or Minnesota.
Oh, there's no way he's going.
I understand, but I also don't think. But I think Stafford understands that.
Yeah.
But if you're trading him out of the conference or even out of the division, look, he's been there 12 years. He's never complained. He's never bitched. He's never moaned.
He's never gotten hurt.
Okay. Mark just asked, and this to me, if the Patriots draft Mac Jones,
you have to know Mark.
I get it. Well, then what about Gilmore, Mac Jones, and the 2022 number one for Watson?
Okay, and this all depends on where Watson wants to go. So if Watson says, I want to go to New England, Mark, he'll be in New England because Watson controls his destiny. So the fact that you're making up these trades does not matter.
Nope.
Because, first of all, Houston doesn't want Gilmore back at all. If they're going into a rebuild.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you said Gilmore. Okay, Buffalo had Gilmore, not Houston. Yeah. Gilmore's a hell of a player, but they need a lot.
He's a $12 million albatross to them.
$12 million cornerback.
Right. So, which they don't need. So if you're looking to fit Deshaun Watson under the cap, you're cutting guys like Julian Edelman. You're cutting a lot of players.
Yeah, because you're talking a $30 million discount. Was Watson signed for what, 4 years, 150?
His cap number next year actually is only $10 million.
Right, and then it jumps up the next year.
And it jumps up to 37, like 33, 37, 38.
You have to cut because the reason a lot of this works for Indy is $60 million under the cap. San Francisco cuts Garofalo, who's 20 million.
And the Jets are $100 million under the cap.
$100 million under. Miami is under. I don't know how much, but Miami has no big contracts, I think, except for Xavier Howard. Excuse me. New England is not there. New England has no, as far as they have guys like Hightower who will be back next year, who's at $8 or $9 million. It doesn't work. I am sorry, Mark. They cannot get him.
Well, they can. They just have to get rid of most of their roster to do it.
Why would Houston want their roster? The roster is awful.
No, I'm saying they would have to cut.
Yeah, they'd have to cut.
They'd have to cut. They'd have to cut the Hightowers. They'd have to.
Number one, Mark. Who is the number one wideout in New England right now?
Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry,
who was a disappointment the first.
They would need to let Joe Thuney go.
Yep. Well, he may leave anyway. I know the Jets.
Oh, he's definitely going to the Jets. Like, there's no question. They were going to offer him a huge deal last year. They'll offer him the same deal this year.
I'm shy after the last time they spent a lot of money on a New England offensive lineman. I would be. Nate Soldier didn't work out.
That's true, but you were signing him as a left tackle. I'm signing him as an inside guard. There's a lot different there. But anyway, I get what you're saying. The cast-offs from the Bill Belichick era, a.k.a. Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels, don't generally work out anywhere else except for New England. And then they scuttle back to New England and do the exact same thing and then come back out. It's like a recycled piece of garbage. Oh, wait, did I say that about New England? Wait. Well, it is very cold. I believe it's 19 degrees in Boston today.
And snowing.
It's snowing where you are?
It's about an inch, nothing bad.
You know, it was snowing in Phoenix yesterday.
How
Yeah.
did your mom handle that?
I don't know. We didn't have that discussion.
Did she blame Biden?
That, okay,
Sorry.
we didn't say that. We didn't say that. But anyway, wow. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot more about the Super Bowl next week since we have a week off. Do you like this week off?
No.
Because they used to have it. So they've always done 2 weeks, and then for a couple of years they cut the week.
Okay.
And Mark's about to say something else.
Yeah. He's telling us that our hatred for America's team is revolting. I hate to tell
America's
you.
team plays in Dallas.
When did New England become America's team?
America's team plays in Dallas, dude. 700 miles west of me is where America's team is. You are not America's team, my friend.
Yeah.
At all. Carly, you're not America's team.
I'm at the office.
Oh, that was not America's team. You are not America's team at all. In fact, you may be America's most hated team.
Could be.
Yeah, you're coming close to that. So before we have about 10 minutes left. Today is the 1-year anniversary of Kobe's accident. I'm not sure you knew that.
Again.
So I remember that day vividly, and I remember our conversation that we had that day. It was the start of obviously a tumultuous year in general.
Very diplomatic way to put it.
Yeah, well, I try every once in a while. And the concept of and ending it, this whatever 365-day cycle with the passing of Hank Aaron, both guys did more for their sport than just play their sport. And I think that's a lot of what we need to take out of sports in general is the fact that these guys are humans. Like we don't do that very often in general. Like you're trading a guy from A to B, B to C, C to D, and not taking the rest of it in stride. And one of those guys that I never did was Phil Rivers. Philip Rivers may be the most interesting football player that has come across in our time. I don't even know how many kids he has, but it's a lot.
9
kids. 9 kids. Went from San Diego to LA to Indianapolis. There's a guy that we're talking about basically a comparison with Matt Stafford, right? Never complained, not once.
Nope.
Always did his job, and did his job with some snarl and some snarkiness, which was awesome. Like he always showed his emotion. Is Philip Rivers a Hall of Famer to you? So he just retired. Philip Rivers retired this week.
I think so. This is going to be a really tough call because he never went to a Super Bowl.
He never won an MVP.
I was going to say he never won an MVP. But for a 10-year span, he was probably a top 5 quarterback in the league. And he does lead the all children team with Travis Henry as your running back
and Sean Kemp as your Kemp
was the basket. But I enjoyed watching Philip Rivers play. I thought he was a lot of fun to watch. I thought he was really good. He had some extraordinarily bad luck to never make a Super Bowl going against the New England team. And I remember the one year when they went undefeated and they lost to the Giants, where he tore his ACL the week before and then played with it, if I remember correctly. And they lost by like 4 because New England was burned out. Like, look, as big a Giants fan as I am, I have no illusions they were a better team than New England was. But New England was exhausted by the end of that. And part of that was because of that San Diego AFC title game. They just had some really bad luck and some terrible kickers. He kind of to me is on that. Marino, not at Marino's level, because Marino is an all-time great. He's kind of the second tier. He's kind of on the very precipice for me because I like small Hall of Fames, for lack of a
Right. Well, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah,
If he's in your top 5, then you're putting definitely the top 4 in, right? Because he's at your 5. So
Roethlisberger is in.
So it's Roethlisberger, Rodgers, Brady, and Manning.
And Breeze. So, I mean, those are your top. So give or take 5 or 6. I mean, Breeze, Rodgers, Manning, and Brady are no-brainers.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's going to question Roethlisberger. You have a dead look in your eye. Are you?
I know, because I hadn't really thought about Roethlisberger
He may have, because he may be retiring also.
I know. And his is an interesting case too. Because in the era of let's throw as many passes as Ben Roethlisberger did, if Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer, now granted he won a Super Bowl. I'm going to. That's right. He won that second one. Darn it, that takes away what
he beat Seattle and he beat Arizona.
Right. So I was going to say, is Matt Stafford a Hall of Famer? Is Matt Ryan a Hall of Famer? Because these guys are putting up the same numbers as Phillip Rivers are. So
he's had a lot more success. I mean, look, Ryan went to a Super Bowl and won an MVP.
Yeah.
But over time, Rivers had more success.
I agree with that. I agree. And you're absolutely right. If he had better kickers, he would have been somewhere else, because
Ryan also had Julio Jones. Stafford had Calvin Johnson. Who exactly did Rivers had Tomlinson.
Yep. And Keenan Allen at a later time.
Right. Keenan Allen's a very good wide receiver. Keenan Allen's not Julio Jones.
Right, but LaDainian Tomlinson's better than any back that either.
But we're talking also looking from a passing statistical standpoint.
Yeah, I get that. Look, Phillip Rivers ruined my junior year of college, beating Donovan McNabb on a Thursday night game. So he absolutely ruined what I thought was going to be a national championship season. So I have no illusions that Phillip Rivers is not a good quarterback, throwing to Torrey Holt in that game. But yes, I pulled Torrey Holt. I know it's a good pull. It's a good pull. Well, when you're basically putting your head in your hands and crying, you remember who did it to you.
Hasn't that been your sports fandom for the last 35 years?
Yes.
Other than one ran in 2003?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, when I cried then too. So
so did I.
That's what you do. But yeah, I will have to digest Phillip Rivers, and that's why the Hall of Fame you need to wait a certain period of time, right? Because you have to digest what he did and how. But Phillip Rivers was a quality quarterback. Like, if nothing else, he wasn't a fantastic quarterback. He wasn't a statistical marvel like Matt Stafford was or is. Matt Stafford, you could throw 4,000 yards, 5,000 yards in there. Phillip Rivers was never getting that. It just wasn't happening. But a good, solid quarterback, yeah. I mean, top 5, you might be able to convince me otherwise. Yeah.
We got 2 minutes left. Well, also that means Eli Manning's not getting in, which is a whole other.
Yeah.
You know my feelings on it. So 2 minutes left. Who gets into the Hall of Fame tonight?
Curt Schilling. And maybe just Curt Schilling.
That's probably how it should be. I don't think anyone wants to be in with him right now.
No. No. By the way, one more thing before we depart. I wanted to leave with one more stat on Henry Aaron. So Henry Aaron, his career high was for home runs was 47. His career home runs of 755 was 16 times his career high. Just put that in perspective as to how consistent this guy was. That his career high was 13 less than Babe Ruth's career high. And I don't think he came even close to Ruth's second, third, or fourth. And he still finished with 755 home runs. He was a Model of consistency. Model of consistency. And completely overrated. Underrated, excuse me. Completely underrated. Next week, we'll talk Super Bowl. We'll have our predictions. And since I predicted Tampa Bay at the beginning of the year, I will probably stick with that one.
I probably will. For Sean Palmer. Well, I guess I don't have to do for Sean Palmer anymore since we don't really have
I'm here.
There you are.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
See ya. Have a good night.